Hello and welcome to ModB.com's Stanislaus Football Weekly, an inside look at all things football in the Modesto area. And now for your hosts, Joe Cortez and Brian VanderBeek.
Hey, welcome to Stanislaus Football Weekly for Week 3 of the high school football playoff season. I'm Brian VanderBeek. This is Ron Agostini, and that's Isaiah Burst down at the end there. That's Joe Cortez wearing the Fresno State shirt. The only one of the three of us, by the way, who didn't go to Fresno State.
But I have twin daughters who go there.
Good enough.
My wife went there.
Good enough for me.
Most of my money goes there.
That's right.
So come on, make me an honorary.
An honorary dog.
I feel bad for you, Brian. You just don't belong in this group.
That's right. That's right. Overall, we had a pretty good playoff week last week. Started with 11 Stanislaus district teams, came out with 6, and considering that 3 of the games were head-to-head,
right,
that's not too bad. So we're going to go right along and look a little bit back at last week, and starting with the Division 3. Manteca beat Casa Roble, and Ron, you were there.
I was there, Brian. It was nice to be back at Manteca High. It had been quite a while since I covered a Manteca High home game, saw a lot of old friends, and Manteca High played a very strong game against Casa Roble. They won 49-13. They're really showing the kind of play that extends you through the postseason. Strong, a very portable offense, very strong running game that gets you through bad fields and good. Yeah. Here this time of year, pretty soft surface that night. Didn't bother Manteca at all with that rushing attack. They won the game 49-13. Typical Manteca performance. Alex Laurel scored 4 touchdowns. Huge offensive line, Joe. That's the first time I'd seen him.
Huge.
They're big.
Isaac McLean, 292. Joe Evanson on the other side, 6'4", 312. I'm not making up those numbers, and they go pretty much straight ahead.
And they smack people.
And they smack you. And the special teams are aggressive. Just a strong performance by Manteca all night long. That's why they're 11-1, 1 point away from 12-0. They waited a while for this team. You know, they won 2 section championships in the last decade. This year is their first 2 playoff wins since '07. So they were pretty happy at the end of the game the other night, Brian.
I bet.
And this was a big accomplishment, big step forward for the program. Eric Reese, as you know, has done a great job there, and now they're in the semifinals against a very fast intercom team. Kind of curious how that game's going to play out, Brian.
Yeah, we'll talk about a little bit more about that game later in the show, but I was also at a Division III game Saturday afternoon. It was kind of a throwback to the 40s. It's just,
Sacramento High.
Sacramento High put bleachers on the running track there. They had about 200 seating for about 250 on the Oakdale side, and that filled up about an hour and a half before the game. And they'd look across and about the 700, or not, maybe about 500 seats on the Sacramento side. And there are about 3 or 4 people over there. But the Oakdale people happy to stay on their side, and they're wearing their red sweatshirts. I asked a couple, just throw on a Purple Dragons, T-shirt and go sit over there. Nope, we're happy here. We're happy here.
No, there's no lights there, correct?
No lights, and 1 o'clock kickoff. Just a wonderful setting for a game. All the fans were very well behaved, and in addition, all the seats being full, they're about 2 or 3 deep all the way around. There's probably 2,000, 2,500 people. Just a terrific setting. Oakdale ends up losing that game to Sacramento 40-21. That final score. Absolutely zero indication of how that game went, especially first half. Oakdale runs 54 plays in the first half of that game. Amazing. 46 rushing plays. Absolutely controlled the game.
Was Chip Kelly calling
exactly.
plays?
I wrote it was Oregon like 54 plays. And they were up 21-13 with 4 minutes left in the third quarter of this game. Sacramento scores on the ensuing kickoff. Oakdale kid picks it up, running down the sidelines, gets stripped as the guy's passing by, spins around, returns it for a touchdown. Sacramento scores 14 points in 14 seconds, takes the lead. Oakdale still, ensuing kickoff, 12 plays right down the field, have a 4th and goal at the 1, a lead dive to Brock Whiting, which had worked all day long, gets stuffed. Now the Oakdale people are saying he was in. I was right on the goal line. He got stopped, knee down, and then made another surge and got in after that. I really thought it was down, and they made the right call there. Then Sacramento turns around, goes 99 yards.
Oh boy!
Backbreaker.
In 8
That's
plays.
the ball game.
Yeah.
And then Oakdale turns the ball over, their 4th turnover of the game. Sac scores again, and there's your final score. Oakdale complained about the officials after this game. It was a little bit of whining, understandably so. It was 12-6 in penalties, but Oakdale 12 penalties for 84, Sacramento 6 penalties for 54. I got to mention though that 6 of Oakdale's 12 penalties were for procedure, and that's really late in the season to have procedure calls, but that really hurt Oakdale too.
Hard to argue about 4 turnovers in a playoff game. Not too many teams succeed after turning the ball over 4 times.
Well, 12 penalties, 4 turnovers, and getting stuffed at the one, and that's going to lead to that kind of But
Getting stuffed at the one's bad enough, but when the other team goes 99 yards to take advantage of it, that's a real kick in the groin.
As hard as this game was to take for the Mustangs and their fans, Trent Merzon did an incredible job with his team building off. They lost so much off of last year's State Bowl team, and conversely, they've got a lot coming back for next year. Oakdale is going to be once again a force to be reckoned with. And the not expanded, but renovated, altered VOL with Central Catholic going into that league next year.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
It'll be a lot of fun. Going into Division 4, Hilmar beat Escalon 14-7 in a terrific game. Hilmar scored twice early in that game, and then kind of held on, I guess. So Escalon scored fourth quarter of that game?
Yeah, they scored late in that game to make it close.
Yeah.
But it was like the first game. Very competitive despite the final margin. This was only a 7-point margin. The first game was a 14-point final margin. It was still very close.
Yeah. Well, in another game, Central beat Colfax, and you were at that game.
Yeah, the Central dominated this game, and Colfax really impressed me with their win over Sierra the previous week.
Yeah, they won that game late, clinched it right at the end of the ball game.
They did, and I thought Colfax was going to give Central a bit of a problem because they threw so well, and they really didn't. Colfax, it was obvious they made a determination they were not going to let Matt Ringer beat them in this game, and he had, I think it was about 85 yards, but they were really hard-earned yards on 27 carries, I think. And he was just beat up all night long. But you had a lot of other people stepping forward. Reggie Bland stepped forward with a big night. He was big offensively and defensively. Hunter Petlansky completed 5 of 8 passes. Probably should have been 7 of 8, truth be told. There were 2 drops there on him. So you've got other people stepping up for Central Catholic, and that's dangerous for the rest of this division if they can rely on somebody besides Matt Ringer.
Well, Central's going to be playing Ripon this week, and Ripon took care of Calaveras on the Ripon field, Stouffer Field, 58-21 in a game that I covered the other night. This game was absolutely no problem for the Indians. They moved the ball at will. Mike Sewell scored 3 times to cap a terrific career up at Calaveras. Michael Isett had 200 yards rushing and added a 90.
Is it?
Is it? I wrote that headline too. 200 yards rushing and also had a 91-yard kickoff return and then didn't carry the ball in the fourth quarter. Ripon had some trouble on special teams. Sewell actually had 160 yards in kickoff returns on 3 returns, and Ripon's going to have to clean that up because you just can't have any special teams mix-ups or failures when you're going to face Central Catholic. But that's going to be an interesting game that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Let's move on to Division 5, though, where LeGrand, as expected, took care of Waterford 31-3. And a little bit of surprise to me when Mariposa lost to Golden Sierra at home 35-28 in overtime. And we talked about the 3.5-hour drive for Golden Sierra to get there, but apparently a fine performance by them.
They're really rolling. Like you said last week, they started the season 0-4.
Yeah.
Then they were 1-5, and they haven't lost since. And then they took care of Mariposa after that long trip. So they're really onto something here. They're kind of a mystery.
Yeah, still a mystery. In Division 6, though, Ripper Christian went up to Woodland and beat up on Woodland Christian 46-0. And again, no surprise there. What would you call that? A cosmetic seed? Is that what you called that last week?
Yeah, because they were the
number 2.
Right, they were the league champ from
up there.
From up there. Thanks, Brian.
The up there league, the UTL, the up there league.
And Ripon was a runner-up in the Southern League, but it was a cosmetic seeding. Ripon was the 3, Woodland was the 2, but we all thought that this would be the outcome.
Andrew Brown, 285 yards, 4 touchdowns. Another great game and a great season for him. But Billy Marsh, 6'3" junior quarterback, having a great year.
What'd I tell you? What'd I tell you last week?
That's right. Joe said it last week, and
Billy Marsh, he's a player.
Yes, and he's going to be back. So RC is going to be just fine next year.
Well, Ron's working on a feature right now on Andrew Brown, and it's probably, if you look this up on modb.com, probably just the one click to the left or right, you'll be able to read that feature on Andrew Brown. Look forward to reading that. Let's look ahead to this week and this week's games, and let's start in the same order. Division III semifinals. Manteca hosting Inderkum as the Buffs looking to become the 15th school in the section to win 4 or more section titles. We talk about Inderkum speed. We know that. I saw Inderkum beat Oakdale a couple years ago up there on the AstroTurf, right next to Arco or whatever they're calling it these days. And
Sleep train.
Sleep train.
Yeah.
In the middle it was.
Are we sure?
That's right.
Yes.
There's power balance in the middle there for a while
Yes,
too.
that's true.
Inderkum speed. You already mentioned Manteca soft field. We haven't had any rain since then, but I got to imagine they're not pouring stuff on it to make it any faster.
No, they're not. They're not going to install field turf there at Gus Schmidt Field. I bet it'll be kind of a slowish track, and that should work in favor of Manteca. Now, how they cope with Inderkum speed will decide that game. But how Inderkum copes with that Manteca offensive line, which is really the heart of that team, that will go far to decide the game too. I think Manteca has a tendency to dictate the terms in these games with that big line, and I have a hunch that will also decide this game too.
Yeah, the winner of that game is going to take on the winner of Christian Brothers at Sac High. That's an 8 versus a 4. Is that right? 8 versus 4, I believe. In the other side is Sacramento High and Christian Brothers. The two surprises in the Division III bracket so far. Another Saturday afternoon game at Sac High. Move over to the Division IV semifinals, where Central Catholic is going to host Ripon. I know the Indians are convinced, talking to them, that they can play with Central Catholic, and the veterans on this team are even more convinced, remembering last year where
last year's game.
Ripon led 21-17 at halftime.
That was a weird game last year.
It was.
Central jumped out to a 17-0 lead, and then they fell behind 21-17 at half. And then in the second half, it was pretty much the weigh-in ratio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Central Catholic got a little nasty there. Roger Canepa went to the powerful ground game, and Ripon couldn't answer that. I wonder if Ripon will be able to this year, because they're going to get another dose of it with Matt Ringer for sure.
It'll be interesting. In falling behind 17-0 in that game last year, all 17 points are off turnovers for Ripon. So Ripon handed them that 17-0 lead that came storming back.
Okay.
Ripon's better this year. Ripon is much more balanced this year. The development of Nick Price at quarterback.
Boy, that's a difference maker.
Oh
huh?
my gosh, it was
sophomore quarterback.
Ended up 14-16.
Maybe 2 sophomore quarterbacks in this game.
Yeah.
With Central
true.
Catholic's Hunter Petlansky. Now, Petlansky hasn't led Central Catholic all year.
Right.
He's taking over for Donovan Townsend. But in a big game, there's going to be 2 15-year-olds. All the signals.
And it's amazing. Central Catholic's line, and that's the big thing. Will Central Catholic be able to dominate behind that big line?
Townsend will not quarterback in that game?
No,
Joe?
it's Petlansky.
It will be Hunter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, those are all semifinals in the upper divisions, but we're going to Division V now, where we have a championship game with LeGrand meeting Golden Sierra. That's Saturday at 6 o'clock at Lodi's Great Bowl, the renovated Great Bowl. Every time I go there, they've added something. I guess they've added a grand entrance now. They went to field turf a couple of years ago. It's real. I mean, it's not its 50,000 seat glory that it was in the 40s and 50s, but it's a nice little 8,000 to 10,000 seat place now, very clean, almost modern as you can be if you have a football stadium next to Zupo Field, which is kind of not the antithesis of
modern.
not modern.
Not modern.
But
Wood.
but I mentioned Manteca trying to join the 4 title club.
That's right.
Manteca wins on Friday, then the Bulldogs will be trying and be heavily favored to beat Golden Sierra, so the Bulldogs would win their 4th section championship.
That's a doubleheader at the Great Bowl, right?
It is, because in the division, nice lead in there, because in the Division 6 championship game,
What a segue.
Just trying to help you.
at 1 o'clock at the Great Bowl, Ripon Christian is taking on Bradshaw Christian. Now, Bradshaw has won the last 2 Division 6 titles held in odd-numbered years. They seem to switch it off every year with other teams. But they also won a Division 7 title in 2008, so they'll be looking for their 4th division title.
Yeah, they beat Ripon Christian when Andrew Brown was a sophomore 2 years ago, and Andrew remembered that. So, see if he's got an answer for him here in his last game for RC.
Well, Ripon Christian is in its 10th year of playing high school football, and the Knights are looking for their first ever title.
That's right. Big moment for RC.
It really is. I'll be there Saturday. Really, sometimes I'll admit this. Sometimes it's hard for a Ripon High grad to root for those colors when you see Knights across the chest. But no, I'm going to waive all that, and we got to be impartial here. But it would not break my heart to see Ripon Christian win this section title.
Hometown boy, Brian.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Section championship weekend coming up Friday and Saturday. The following weekend, the games are held at Lincoln of Stockton and Sacramento State. The times will be announced Saturday morning officially, but in past years they've been leaked to us and the rest of the media on Friday night. So we might have them actually in Saturday's paper. Okay. Final points, Joe.
Well, we should mention that Andrew Brown is
Yeah.
now the new single-season rushing champion for the Stanislaus district. He passed Jaquan Gardner, so congratulations to Andrew Brown. And I'm sure you'll be writing about mentioning that in your.
Yes, I will.
Don't mess it up, Ron.
I will not mess it up. You've already given me the numbers.
Hey, I just wanted to say this year, sitting in the desk in here all these years, sitting on the desk all these years, I've heard a lot about Mark Lorero. And this was the first year I got to see a Mark Lorero team. And I got to see them a couple times. I got to see them play Hillmar, and I got to see them lose against Hillmar, see them beat Houston. So I got both sides of it. But I was just thoroughly impressed by the quality of that program and his coaching staff and his game day moves and maneuvers. He's just a wonderful coach and a great guy, and he's great to talk to. And I just wanted to congratulate Escalon on a really good season. They weren't expected to do much, kind of like Oakdale High, like we mentioned. But
Right.
I was just really pleased to finally get to meet Lorero and work with him. It was a lot of fun.
Solid program.
Yeah. Mark doesn't.
And now I know why.
Yeah.
Mark doesn't miss anything. He will miss nothing. If there's a minute left, the other team has the ball. He's calling timeouts. I've seen him twice go for free kicks, in the last play of the half or something like that. And
I've heard these kind of things from other coaches in this district.
Yeah.
They all think highly of Mark Lorero.
He has a better grasp on game night than most coaches in the area. He knows exactly what works for his kids and for his program.
He's prepared.
And he's a strategist, and he knows which buttons to push on game night. That's easier said than done.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm looking down at the final point that I was going to make, but it seems to me I've already said all this when I was talking about it. But something else I say for this too is that we're talking about when these section games are going to happen, these section title games, and when they're going to happen. But I'm hearing a little bird up in the Lodi office that if Manteca wins Friday night, that section title game will be at Lincoln of Stockton the following Friday night, the 6th, the 7 o'clock game, which would afford Manteca High fans a very, very easy 23-mile drive. Nice having to go there instead of going up to Sac State for a game.
It's setting up nicely for the Buffaloes.
It really is, and that'll be against obviously the Christian Brothers Sacramento winner. Neither of those schools is going to travel very well, so that will be a decidedly. If Manteca wins this week against Inderkum, the section title game will be a decidedly home crowd, and they've earned it.
They have earned it.
They've earned it.
They're back in the semifinals.
Yeah. Ron, what do you got to wrap up with?
Just a shout out to Modesto Junior College. They finished their season Saturday with a 49-38 win over Santa Rosa in the Golden Valley Bowl. It's a big deal to the Pirates. They won 3 of their last 4. Won a road bowl game for the first time since 1980. Yeah. Now, MJC fans know 1980. That's the season they went unbeaten, 11-0, and upset Pasadena City College in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. And were ranked first in the country at the end of the season. A mythical national title that year. And MJC this year won a road bowl game for the first time since back then. So congratulations to Sam Young and the Pirates.
Yeah, don't tell Larry Kasinger it's mythical.
It's not mythical to them. No, it is not.
Who's Larry Kasinger?
He was one of the quarterbacks on that team. Yes.
Riverbank High.
Riverbank's own.
There you go.
A terrific athlete. I started at every varsity sport from sophomore year on. Terrific athlete.
Todd Savick, former coach in the area. Oh, still a coach in the area.
Yeah.
Big role player on that team.
Yeah. Well, I could reminisce about those
No,
days.
you can.
That was
For us oldies.
That was like right after I left MJC. And I went to Fresno State. And there we go.
And there we go.
All the way back
Off
up.
we went.
So that's it for Stanislaus Football Weekly for this week of the playoffs. I'm Brian VanderBeek, and this is Ron Agostini, and Joe Cortez is down at the end. Hey, you're running out of time. Go see some high school playoff football this weekend.